When the pandemic broke out, life stopped in an instant. Suddenly, we all had to stay at home. School moved to the screen. We could only see and hang out with friends on the phone or on Zoom. For me, during the pandemic, the hardest thing was to stay motivated to work at school. Robert, did you experience this in Ireland? What did you miss the most?
One thing that changed for me during the pandemic was that I didn't get to play as many sports as I would. So I used to play 3 sports a week, and now during the pandemic I don't. So I guess that kind of made me feel more enclosed within the house because you couldn't go outside as much and you didn't get any exercise.
The thing that bothered me the most about the pandemic is that I couldn't go out and see my loved ones. Also, my school decided to switch to online learning, and obviously it wasn't as much as fun as it used to be.
During the pandemic, school and ballet were real difficult because they were online, but at least my family and I got together more as we are all at home. Anja, what changed for you? What changed the most for me is that I was in front of screens from morning to night because I attend 2 schools, and I really missed my free time in nature. After we got used to the situation, we started to meet teens for unity via Zoom. It was not like it would be in person, but it still helped us maintain relationships. We asked Rama from Indonesia what the situation was like during the pandemic for them and what he experienced.
The title of my experience is God's Providence for Other People. Good afternoon. My name is Rama and you can call me Rama. I come from Indonesia, precisely in the city of Jakarta. I study at SMP Charakanita 5, Jakarta, 7th grade. Since the COVID-19 virus pandemic hit the world from the beginning of 2020, it had a very bad impact, especially in terms of health and also the economy. Many people have to stop working and become unemployed. Even though our family was affected, we were still lucky. Papa and Mama are still working as usual. On the other side, we also often receive social assistance from the government. Many of our neighbors do not receive social assistance because they are not residents of this area or for other reasons. Papa and Mama decided to distribute all the social assistance we received from the neighbors to the neighbors who need it the most. In addition to the social assistance that we receive, Papa and Mama also bought extras to share with them. This activity has been carried out regularly since 2020. But my most touching experience for me was one day when I was about to go to home after school from face-to-face lessons. I saw a scavenger picking up used trash. I feel sad because he has struggled to get food or his needs. In my heart, then I think of doing something. Then I talk about distributing groceries to scavengers. I also said the idea to my Papa and Mama via WhatsApp. They also agreed with the idea. After that, my mother and my sister were going to the supermarket to buy rice, instant noodles, fried noodles, cooking oil, eggs, and sardines. However, my Papa can help because he has a lot of work to take care on his office. After buying the material, my mother, I, and my 2 sisters gathered to arrange the basic food materials. We spent about 1 hour, 30 minutes to arrange the basic necessities. I thank my Papa and Mama because they accepted my idea to give something to someone in need. Currently, social assistance is no longer available, but we still do it and share it with others. Thank you.
To give us a better understanding of how the pandemic has impacted the lives of us people greatly, we have somebody here to tell us all about that. we decided to ask Renata Roche 4 questions that we all want the answers to. Renata is an outstanding Brazilian psychologist who specializes as a neuropsychologist, working with children and adolescents alike. She is also doing her master's in bioethics. We will now hear from her.
Through the pandemic, depression and anxiety rates have risen a lot. Do you think the main reason is the lack of social interactions? Which demographic group do you think is the most affected?
Well, several studies have shown that depression and anxiety have really increased a lot during the pandemic. The results of various analyses show that the pandemic does significantly impact mental health, especially for children and adolescents. According to experts, the increase in cases of depression and anxiety among young people and children is mainly associated with social isolation, the loss of objectives and goals due to the uncertainties imposed by the pandemic, school absence with the closing of institutions, financial difficulties experienced by families during this period, the loss of loved ones and other factors. We can say that there was a loss of contact with colleagues, particularly with our peers. School, for example, is not a place where only didactic and learning activities are carried out. It's a place of effective contacts that are very important for the development of social cognition, which are mental processes through which we understand ourselves, we understand others and social situations. For young people and adolescents, these contacts are especially important because it is an age when people need to expand their worldview. It's the time when young people and adolescents build their relationships, make choices more consciously and discover themselves in the world. The young person is still maturing her or his emotional system and is at a stage when social contacts are fundamental for the development of their social cognition.
Thank you, Renata. So the next question is, how does higher use of social media affect the mental state in isolation? Do you think that it lowers self-esteem? And if so, how can young people learn to avoid negative influences?
We can say that while, on the one hand, in social isolation, social media has enabled, in a certain way, the continuity of relationships during the pandemic, on the other hand, its excessive use has brought and will still bring several consequences for mental health, especially for children and adolescents. The intensive use of the internet can generate compulsive use, creating a dependence that places the use of the internet as central in my life and in relation to the other things I do during the day. Social networks can also directly interfere with our self-esteem, promoting the comparison between different people and further decreasing our love of self in general. When we look at a certain photo post with people always happy and doing fantastic things, we start to compare ourselves with them and think our life is not as cool as that person's, or that our life has no meaning, that we would like to have a different life. There's a great danger here. The internet doesn't show people's real lives, but only a part of what they live. It's not possible to know all the problems and difficulties that a person is experiencing just from a photo. Anything we see on the internet is in a decorative frame, and in decorative frames we put happy people, not the vulnerabilities and difficulties that are part of every person's life. Therefore, the first step to prevent our internet experience from having such a big effect on self-esteem is to remember this cutting and clipping that we take for granted. Another important point is personal scrutiny. In other words, what we see on the networks is a trigger for automatic thoughts. So we have to learn the ability to question the system in order to reverse its influence. An important point is that social networks were developed in a very similar way to the slot machines that we find in different places. That is, a system of stimulus and almost reflexive response that generates addictive behavior. The likes, comments, mentions, and searching for each of these answers online have become not only a hook for social media addiction, but also a social validation mechanism. But we don't need an audience to validate ourselves to feel valued, or we don't depend on the number of likes to feel valued. Each of us is unique. We have our own values and dignity, regardless of virtual judgments.
Independente de julgamentos virtuais. Thank you, Renate. Carla Estefania from Mexico did experience the effects of higher use of social media and isolation, and she would like to share her experience with us.
Hi, I'm Steffi. I live in Mexico City and I'm 14 years old. At home, I live with my father, my mother, my 3 sisters, my brother, and I'm the youngest of all. Due to the pandemic, I spent more time on social networks and started to discover a new way of life. Watching many series and films that I liked, and I didn't realize that they affected my behavior and distanced me from God, such as Harry Potter, Stranger Things, and Merlin. I also started to like the music of Billie Eilish, Conan Gray, etc. I started to think that using language like swearing wasn't wrong. I spent my time lying in bed looking at my iPad. I didn't like helping around the house. I thought only of myself. I left my responsibilities at school. I got angry and cried often because I didn't see the meaning of life. But at the time, I was still involved with the Gen 3. I thought about leaving them, but felt that something wouldn't allow me to do so. Now I realized that it was God who was there taking care of me and helping me to change. After a while, I started to see videos that talk about Jesus on TikTok. I watched them without really wanting to because I thought that if I didn't watch them, God would get angry with me. Then I saw more and more videos because that's how the algorithm of TikTok works. If you see a video of one type of content, you get more. And little by little, I started to discover the love of God. Due to the pandemic, we listened to Mass online, and because of this, I had not received Jesus the Eucharist for many months. One fine day, when I was connected to the online classes and about to go to my break, my mom said to me, "Hey Steffi, the churches are open now, do you want to go?" So we went. There I received Jesus in the Eucharist, and I felt His love very strongly when He gave His life on the cross for us. I felt so much happiness and even shed some tears. From that moment, I decided to change. God knows how difficult it was for me to do it. It was like leaving the world to follow Him. It was a whole process and God was helping me. For example, I like the rhythm of reggaeton, and He made me find a group called Rio Squad. And they make songs with that rhythm but with positive messages. They talk about the happiness of finding God's love, etc. I used to go to Mass only on Sundays, and because my parents took me to Mass, it was very boring. But now that I have come closer to Jesus, I don't get bored. I feel happy to go every day, and this gives me strength to keep going. Now I like to help at home. I don't spend so much time on the iPad, and I use the time to watch movies, videos, and music that help me to continue improving spiritually. And also to develop the gifts that God gave me, to put them at the service of others, like my love of drawing and cooking. Although there are still many things when I struggle to love and follow God's will, I know that becoming holy is not about being perfect, but about recognizing that I am a sinner and I make mistakes, but I can always start again.
How can we recognize that our friends are facing difficulty, and how can we help them?
Well, there's no single answer as each person reacts differently. Some isolate themselves and no longer respond to our messages or phone calls. Others engage in 1,000 different things to try to forget what they are experiencing. Some begin to exhibit risky behavior such as drinking, using drugs, going out with different people to try to anesthetize their suffering, and so on. The most important thing is that those who are suffering know they can count on us. The best way to help is to be a presence of love, whether through attentive and empathetic listening, giving a word of encouragement, offering to do something together, walking around a lake, even in silence, sending sweets or a cake that we know he or she likes, with a little note saying, "Count on me for anything you need." The important thing is that this person knows that we love them, regardless of what they are living or doing at that moment.
Thank you very much for your time, Renata. We will now hear from Isabel from Switzerland, who helped her friend when she was in a time of need and feeling very down.
In my new class, there is a student who is often depressed. I really like her. One day I saw again how depressed she was. I asked her if she would like to confide in me about what makes her sad. She shook her head. I felt that she actually needed help. So I said, "If you want, you can call me after school and we can talk." In the afternoon, we chatted for a long time. The next day, my classmate thanked me for listening.
Do you think that the pandemic would change the people's point of view in life?
I believe the pandemic not only could, but has already changed our point of view. Every crisis, whatever it may be, is always an opportunity for change. Every difficulty leads us to overcome obstacles, and this makes us stronger and more confident and opens our eyes to new horizons. We have entered a global crisis triggered by a pandemic that, despite the pain, limitations and uncertainties it brought, has helped us to think and, who knows, perhaps start to change the way we see the world we're living in today. We're all being forced to learn that we will only survive as a species if we truly care about each other. During the pandemic, we've seen behaviour caused by people panicking about death, completely disregarding the human beings nearby, irrationally stocking up in supermarkets and trying at all costs to take advantage of others. Yet, at the same time, we've seen so much solidarity, people concerned about helping those with less or who had lost work, food distribution, payment of other people's bills, doing shopping for those who couldn't leave their home, and so many other gestures of solidarity. The pandemic has given us the opportunity to reflect with our heart and exercise our ability to love life and respect every living being. It was and still is a time to develop our sense of community, our solidarity and our civility, knowing that each life is a precious miracle and that we must be responsible for it and respect it. This unique moment in our common experience is an opportunity to change habits, grow in resilience, to value health and our ties with family and friends, as well as to improve work, redefine solidarity and stop oppressive practices in the social environment. Bye everyone, until the next time.
Thank you, Renate, for your answers. They have been quite informative and inspirational. Now, next on our list, we have an experience all the way from Africa, which will bring us hope in these dark times of pandemic.
Ciao. Hi, my name is Elyse, Gen 3 from Lubumbashi, from the Congo. This year, we have done many things despite the health situation of the pandemic. As gathering in large numbers was prohibited, we understood that God was asking us to live in the present moment. So we started meeting in our Gen units based on who lived nearest. During the United World Week, some of us organized environmental cleanup activities and others visited the orphanage, where we shared some food and other things put in common by the Gen 3. Doing this made us very happy and we understood that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Nothing can prevent us from loving others, not even COVID-19. Thank you!
And to conclude, a song from Slovenia. Anja and Miha will introduce it to us.
Hi, we are Miha and Anja Prošek, and we wrote a song, Let's Rebuild Our Beautiful World.
With our song, we wanted to encourage people to continue working for a wonderful world and to convey the message that as long as at least one other person pushes forward, it will inspire others and bring them hope.
If we stand together, we can slowly but steadily change the world for the better. Thank you for your attention.